Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
Today's episode is brought to you by RLA Polymers and Gripset. For peace of mind when waterproofing, trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. 38FC has been the industry benchmark for years and is rigorously tested internally and through certified NADA laboratories, giving you verified peace of mind. Developed alongside contractors, 38FC has confirmed coverage of 10 square metres per pale and adheres to AS 4858 and AS 4654 compliance. With a quick 1 hour recode time, you can get the job done in record speed without compromising on quality. Don't fall for the copycat products. Trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. Hey everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome back to the program. More importantly, welcome back to the show. We have another industry heavyweight joining us today, all the way over from Western Australia. I'd like to welcome to the program Peter Carter, who is the owner of Crosby Tiles in Western Australia, who's been in the industry for a long time. But I'm going to allow Peter to share that experience with us. But Peter's also been a staunch representative of the Australian Tile Council for a long time and has implemented and influenced a lot of change over many, many years. So, Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Excellent. Well, mate, look, I think the best place to start is always at the beginning, and I'm sure that will take us in some pretty colourful directions. Can you tell us about how you first got involved in the tile industry and specifically the Australian Tile Council as well?
Yeah, I got involved in the tile industry. I was doing a Bachelor of Commerce at a university, so as a 21-year-old looking for a job, there was one advertised at a place called Crosby Tiles as a commercial manager. They were looking to train someone up because they had a bit of an aging problem to become a general manager in due course. And I got that position back in 1979, and that was 46 years ago. So,
wow.
Yeah, I did become the general manager back in 1987, so that took about 8 years. And in 1988, we bought the business in this state. So
Excellent.
We've owned the business here since 1988. And
wow.
Before that, it was a national company.
Awesome. And the business there, is it just the one location for Crosby, and is it across multiple different disciplines in terms of the supply to the marketplace? Yeah,
look, we went through a number of machinations. We started more as a retailer and wholesaler in the earlier years, but we've changed that direction over probably some time ago to specialise with new home builders. So we are the largest supplier of new home builders in West Australia, have been for probably 30 plus years. And so that's basically the direction. But back in the days, I think we had 6 or 7 branches, retail branches, our main office in Austin Park. But now we have just 2 locations, one in the north of Perth and one in the south of Perth. And they basically provide a service for builders for selection centres.
Must be a bit of a relief managing 2 versus 6. That sounds like quite a bit of work, having that many places.
It's different. It's just totally different. Managing, sure, there's less people, but it's a different sort of activity. So, yeah, it's just different.
Yeah, wow. And Peter, tell me, when did you begin getting involved in the Tile Council? I can only imagine it must have been an earlier piece of being a part of the industry, or was it much later on? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was pretty early on, probably about, it wouldn't be the mid-80s, probably the later 80s when we took the business over. It was a natural thing to be a part of the industry. In those days, the Australian Tile Council was very much a state-based organisation, and the states did things individually. And WA had a very strong membership. And so it was only natural that having bought the business and owned it, that you became part of that group. And so that's how I got involved initially, and been involved ever since.
And I do remember from times earlier when I was involved with the Tile Council in Queensland that Western Australia always had a very strong following with members. Was there anything specifically that the group did in Western Australia that made it more prominent than other states, or?
I think West Australia is, because of our isolation, it's a very unified place, and there's a lot of camaraderie in industry generally. So it was just a natural thing. All the owners of the business knew each other. There was not a lot of skullduggery, so to speak. It was a pretty straightforward. Everyone operated ethically, and we got on. We still fought hard on the battlefield, but it was done ethically and honestly. And so it was only natural that as a group that we would be together and stay together to, I guess, make sure that the industry that we were making money out of stayed healthy.
Yeah, it's a really powerful sentence. That last piece is about making sure that the industry stays strong for the good of everyone in the industry, and making sure that it's whilst there's everyone's has individual and separate businesses, whether they be a tile retail store or a wholesale business or a manufacturer of some description, everyone can come together and play nice and think about, what is in the best interest of the industry as a whole. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, it can only be done through a collective group. It can't be done individually. No one company is strong enough to do that or to represent the industry on its own. So, and the ATC had some challenges in the earlier years in respect of people understanding what it was doing and the benefits it was providing, and people just left it to others. And I liken it akin to, if you were farming if you were a farmer, right, and you didn't look after the soil, eventually your crops would be big. So if you don't look after your own industry, eventually it'll stuff up. And so you have to have people looking after it, looking out for it and protecting it. And that's what the Australian Tile Council it still does. And that was its primary focus back in those days, was to be the representative of the industry, was to deal with any issues in the industry and to monitor the standards to make sure that, we got a fair representation and other products didn't actually usurp us and we can't become a smaller industry. Those things don't happen by chance. They only happen because people do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I suppose there's probably going to be a lot of people in the community that are unfamiliar with, the Australian Tile Council. And I know that you've been a strong voice for a long time. Can you help explain in your words what the council does? And I know you've sort of touched on it now, but probably just broaden a bit on that topic, because I know there's a number of different facets to it. But just if you could just extrapolate a little bit more for the community what the ATC does and when it was founded and other things that make up what the group is.
Well, it was founded in 1965, I think, back in New South Wales, and then spread to Victoria, and WA, I think, joined in 1970. But as I said, back in those days, it was more of a state-based organisation where each state had their own state members. We did our own things, but collectively, if something came up, a national issue came up, and there's been many over the years that have come up, and if you go to the ATC website and click on the what we do, you'll be able to see the sort of things that we, as a collective, either initiated or prevented from happening that would have caused the deterioration of our industry. And so there's been a lot of beneficiaries of that one don't even know that we exist, or do know we exist and haven't actually joined. And to me, that's a bit of a fallacy, that you can think that you'll get away with that in the longer term, that someone else is going to continue to look after your patch of dirt, because sooner or later they won't do that. So the ACT up until probably 4 or 5 years ago was seen more as insurance. You pay insurance, you pay it every year, and then one day you got to cash it in and you're so glad you had it. If we didn't have the Australian Tile Council looking after our industry, looking after the standards, dealing with those issues, we wouldn't have been able to cash that insurance in, and there would have been some major things that would have deteriorated our industry. It would have been a smaller and less attractive industry to be in. So that's where it stood. And in those days, it was It was difficult because there was a lot of people couldn't see what's in it for me. And we're not talking a lot of money here. Right? You're talking as an individual member, $150. And you're talking as a company, if he's got one branch, no matter how big it is, it's $350. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a big thing, but you need funds to be able to operate. And so that membership numbers gives the group strength in order to do things. And the financial stuff also gives us strength. But there was enough of us that were diligent enough to be able to do that. And as I say, the Australian standards, whether it be the waterproofing or laying or whatever it may be, we have a major hand in all of those things to make sure that our industry is protected. And I can tell you that there are a number of things that if we hadn't been there were things happening in our industry that a lot of people would shake their head, why did that happen? We need to change that. Well, it's a lot harder to change it than it is to stop it in the first place. So that's where the industry's roots are. And we continue to do that. We've got a technical committee now of 4 or 5 people, and they're very diligent. They sit on 4 or 5 different standards committees for us, but they're also producing technical information for us. So probably 4 or 5 years ago, we made a decision that, look, we need to move past that. We need to look at, okay, let's deal with the what's in it for me question. Right? When someone talks to another, what's in it for me? Oh, yeah, well, that's all right. Someone else will do that. Well, we started to look at becoming, I guess, the technical repository of the industry. And that's the space that we should always be in. And being on the standards in that degree we were, but we wanted to be a little bit more overt about it. So we took the time, it took us 2 years, it took us a lot of money, and we developed the Tiles and Tiling Guide. Now, that is a comprehensive document that sits in the ATC membership. It's free to all ATC members. That covers the A to Z of tiling and tiles. It's a hugely comprehensive guide. We also are subscribed to the USA version, which is also a very, very good document, albeit, right, it's sort of USA language, but a lot of the themes and a lot of the issues are the same. So there's a lot of technical information for members that are available from the Tile Council. So that got us to that phase, and that's been very popular, and it's not unusual for us to get people to basically join just to get a copy. And as I say, if you're an individual tiler or a tiling consultant or an architect or something, you can join for $150. If we were selling that, it'd be $200. All right? So you get the benefit of all the other things that the ACP does, and you're also assisting the industry to continue to look after itself with the membership fee. If you're a company, it's $350. Again, it's a drop in the ocean today. So that's where we got to probably up to 2 years ago. And over the last 2 years, we then wanted to go in further because that technical brochure, that technical information to some degree is still a reactive, right? Defensive. People go there when they have an issue. Oh, what's the rule here? What's the story there? What's the rules on lippage? What's the thing on shading? They don't go there to use it to educate themselves or educate their staff generally. They go there to find out information for when they have a problem. So we wanted to then say, okay, what can we do to be proactive where people will come to us because it's a useful tool? So over the last 2 years, we basically took the guide and we've turned it into a online training course or courses. There's 2. One deals with primarily tiles and one deals with tiling. So those courses, again, are free to members online, exceptional courses. I think there's 6 modules in each course. Everyone that's involved in the tile industry should do the first course, right? The basics. I don't care how experienced you are, right? You should do that. It covers all the different characteristics of tiles and the things that people should know. But it's particularly focused on showroom consultants because there is barely any training in this industry, if any. Most of the training is done person to person in the showroom. You start a new girl or a new guy, they start off and they're taught by the guy who taught the guy who got taught by the guy who got taught by the guy. So the monkey trains the monkey, you trains the monkey, right? And
Best
often there's
Chinese whispers ever.
Okay. Often there's gaps, often there's inconsistencies, and often there's things that are wrong. Right? Every company now for $350 has got a course that's 24/7. Right? Unlimited access to their staff. They can have 100 staff. It's available 24/7, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. There's the 2 courses. And it's particularly valuable for new staff because it does 2 things. It gives them the fundamental groundings of the things that they should know that as an employee you want them to know. Because if they make mistakes, it'll cost you money. It'll either be a rectification or an argument or a loss of reputation or a loss of a sale. So you want educated people. It's there on a plate. You have to do nothing. It's there on a plate. Secondly, because it's framed on the guide, it actually gets them to understand the guide, right? So, realistically, let's say you start a new girl and she's been there for a couple of months and she starts and does the first course. Might take her 4-6 weeks to do the modules. You start finished, right? She's not going to retain a lot of that information in her head. She's still new, right? But guess what? When she needs to know, she knows where to go to get it. Because now she's got access to the ATC website. She can go to the tiling guide. If something comes up with shading or lipping or whatever it may be, she can go and answer the question herself. So it's self-fulfilling in that sense. And then the second course is a bit more advanced. It's more about the technical aspects of laying and waterproofing and all those sorts of things. It's not meant to be, to train tilers, but it's meant to give you, again, all the technical aspects that are there that you'd want a certain section of your staff to know, particularly involved in commercial or specification or things of that nature. So we've now morphed into I guess, very much a provider of education and technical information. And I would think we're offering as much more than any organisation around the world that does this, and it's as good or better than any. If you were paying for your staff to be trained with those videos, you'd be paying $300 or $400 per course, per time.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
You can train as many staff as often as you want with the courses for $350 a year. So, the challenge for us now is to let people know, and this is one of the forums that we can let people know, because again, there's been a lot of, this, what do they do? We don't know. They're not, they're just a group of, whatever, crusty old men or whatever. But nothing's further than the truth. There's a lot now that has been provided to the industry that is there, and we want our existing members to take advantage of it, because not even they know about it because they haven't taken the time to visit their website. It's not like they're going there every day. But particularly we want new people in the industry, particularly the tile merchants, to join up. It's a no-brainer. It's an absolute no-brainer now. So that's what we are now doing. And our quest in the next couple of years is to propagate that and promote that, let people know about it. Because there's no more what's in it for me. It's where do I sign up? Where's the hits? It's only $350. At the end of each course, the participant, when they pass, will get a certificate. And at the end of each module, there are 6 questions they have to pass. So they have to concentrate. It's not a tick and flick exercise. It's genuine, proper education.
Yeah, wow. Peter, that's it's quite a mouthful, but certainly a hell of a lot of great content there. And how long is if I can ask a couple of questions, how long has the training modules been up and running for and operating now?
Well, we had a soft release about early this year. We didn't want to go too hard on it because if there were any glitches or any issues, we didn't want people to then lose confidence in it. So we're past that point now. and now it's up and running. Now, the companies that have, one of the early adopters was G&S Ceramics. One of our national winners. Yeah. They put all their staff through it straight away, and we spoke to them, and they were super impressed with the outcomes. So the proof's in the pudding. As I say, it's a wonderful, wonderful initiative. It cost a lot of money to develop. So that with the guide, we've invested a lot of money in the last probably 4 years, but the proof is now there, and the assets are now there for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think particularly in the time that I've spent and invested in being a part of the ATC in the past, I've seen the industry body grow and grow and grow over time, and I think that it's been quite accelerated probably in the last sort of 5 to 8 years, if not a little bit further. And these sort of initiatives are really good. And I think what a lot of people, particularly people that I speak with in the community in that tiling space, don't understand the amount of clout of the people that are actually working in the ATC, which, again, these are all volunteer positions, or the majority of them are volunteer positions. People that are giving up their time to be involved in the group. And but we're talking about people that have got 20, 30, 35, 40 years experience still driving these initiatives. So that as well as delivering these amazing training programs and Tiling Guide and being linked in with overseas bodies as well is a pretty powerful reason to be involved in the ATC for as little as $150 a year. Yep. So it's there's a lot of really great things happening there.
Well, and the catalyst to it was there was a point where I guess West Australia looked at everything and said, you know what, we're just wasting their time. It's really there's no wheels going. Right? It's pointless. Appreciate we'll stay part of it, but we'll just get on and do what we need to do. I looked at that and I said, look, I'm going to have one crack at trying to reform this organisation. So that would have been, I don't know, over 10 years ago, probably 12 years ago. And the decision I said to myself was, we can't be a state-based organisation, all right? We need to be a national organisation if we're going to have any effectiveness. We looked at what the states were doing individually, and there was a lot of work going on by a lot of good people, but it really didn't amount to anything because you can't achieve anything in your own state. It has to be done nationally. So it took probably 7 or 8 years, but I managed to get that organisation transformed. We are now under a new constitution. We're a national organisation. So you're no longer a member of WA or a member of Victoria or a member of New South Wales. You're a member of the Australian Tile Council. Right? You have a local representative who is akin to a director. So each state has a say in respect of how the organisation's run. But it's not a state-based organisation. Right? He's just representing to make sure that there's no unfairness that could potentially come through at some point. I've never seen it, but we're like a company. We have directors now, and we're all a board, and we ensure that everything's done properly. That changed the whole dynamic. Once we went national, we also collectively brought our funds together, which allowed us to do these things, and now we're all on one page. We now pay a guy to do the work. One of the biggest issues with people joining the council is that no one to join, because the soon as you join, they tap on the shoulder and you're a subcommittee, and before you know it, you're doing more work for the ATC than you're doing for your company. Mm-hmm. And I looked at that and said, no, we can't be doing that, right? So that has completely changed now, such that people will basically aren't afraid to say, no, I'm happy to be the representative for the state or whatever, because apart from participating in probably 6 meetings a year, which go for about an hour, one AGM, right, where, again, we direct things. We don't do the things, we direct them. Mm. And then the executive officer goes off and does it, and we pay him to do it. So that's the other fundamental change, right? And so people can get involved, right? And they can just be a member because you know it's the right thing to do. But now there's also advantages to it with respect of the benefits to your staff. But if you want to go further, then you know that you can get involved and have your say without being left with a bucket load of work that you have to do. And that's the other big fundamental change that I wanted to initiate, and we managed to do that.
A quick word from our sponsor. Partner with Gripset and become one of Australia's leading waterproofers. Waterproofing is one of the most in-demand trades. With Gripset's accredited practitioner program, GAP, you'll be trained and certified in just 3 days. Backed by Australia's leading waterproofing supplies manufacturer and run by trainers with over 20 years of experience within the industry, GAP gives you a wealth of knowledge. Learn how to identify and prevent dampness and water damage in both residential and commercial structures by exploring the current Australian waterproofing standards, correct preparation of substrates for waterproofing, and how to apply both sheet and liquid membranes with a particular focus on the trickier areas such as joints and penetrations. Upon completion, you will be a fully accredited GAP applicator and will be able to access exclusive benefits and free business advertising to expand your clientele. Spots are filling up fast. Upskill today. Visit gripset.com/gap. That's gripset.com/gap, where great applicators get even better. That's really good that that's the current and future direction of the model as well. I think that more and more people will want to participate and sign up and become members, and we're certainly seeing that particularly on digital media platforms as well, where there's a lot more engagement with tiling contractors and that sort of thing. So that's a really, really good space to be in. I'm just going to
look. Can I just make one point there, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely.
We looked at the American organisation, the NTCA, right, and they told us that it's extremely competitive to become part of their executive, particularly onto their technical committee, right? Yeah. And there's a reason for that, right? Because if you're in the driver's seat, particularly on the technical side, you're at the cutting edge of stuff, and you may or may not influence stuff. So we've now got people that's becoming, where in the past people wouldn't go near, no one wanted to do anything. Particularly in that technical side, we've now getting more and more people wanting to come to it because they can see, well, they want to contribute, but they also want to influence. They also want to be in front of the curve in a selfish way for the company they represent, right? To say, I know this potential is coming up, or this is what it's going to look like. So in fact, you're ahead of the play. So there is another reason for people to get involved, particularly the companies that are the bigger companies that should be involved.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And whether you're an independent operator or you're a national company or even an international company, it's important to be involved. There's enough in the last 23 minutes of us speaking to, put that down as grassroots in the soil to say that if you're part of the industry, you have a business and you're making money from the industry, that you should actually be involved in the body the only body that represents the industry behind the scenes and in front of the scenes every day of the week. And
as part of our governance, right, when we redid the Constitution, we've also limited the effect that any one company can have, no matter how big they are. Right? So we've also made sure that we protected that avenue and respected it. We do get equal say and equal opportunity in respect to that.
Beautiful. Excellent. Well, mate, let's shift gears just for a second. I want to talk a little bit about Crosby Tiles as well. It's obviously been around for many decades, and it's gone and seen, multiple economic cycles. And I know that you and I have actually spoken, over a decade ago during different times and when things were great and things weren't great in the different parts of Australia. What do you think has been, some key secrets to the success and longevity and reputation of the brand there in WA?
No secrets, and pretty fundamental. I'm a very fundamental, simple, basic person. Been doing this for 46 years and it's been very successful, but there's no secret sauce. We understand our market. We stay in our lane. We keep it simple, and we do what we say we're going to do. Now, you can apply that to any business, not just our business.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been the secret to our success. So we pivoted to supply home builders probably 25, 30 years ago. And nowadays, that's probably 80% of what we do. And we do it very well because we understand it. And there's a lot of promises made in our industry that people just don't deliver on. And they're promises that are fundamental promises that people don't keep. So, I've always been looked at, I've got to do as much as I can because I can't affect what others do. But if others keep dropping the ball, it just makes it easier. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's basically been the fundamentals of our success.
Fantastic recipe, mate. Love it. Nice and simple, but effective, very effective. What would you say have been, and this is probably a bit more of a broader question, but what would you say have been some of the biggest industry, let me rephrase that. What are some of the biggest challenges you've witnessed in the tile industry in, I suppose, product and customer expectations over the years?
Oh, look, product, probably the biggest challenge has been size. The product's gone from, I remember, mosaic floors were standard just for a bathroom. And a 150 by 150 wall tile, that was it. That was the extent with tiling. Then it moved to 200 by 200 floor tiles and 150 by 150 by 200 wall tiles. And nowadays, tiles are, as 3 meters by a meter, and they can come anything from a couple of mil thick through to 20 mil thick. And, they're not just used in bathrooms, they're used throughout the house, they're used externally, they're used commercially for facades, they're used. So it's been a massive growth in I guess, the nature of the product and the use of the product. And it's helped the industry become the size that it is.
Awesome. Couple of final questions before we finish up today. I know that we sort of touched on a few of these topics already, so I just want to extrapolate again a little bit more. But we talk about, the Tile Council's goal to educate and, I suppose, support the standards in tiling. How important is that mission to you personally, and how have you seen it impact what you do and how you do things?
It's fundamental to the industry, not just our business. If people don't know what they're selling, people don't know how it should be installed. One, it's going to cost that business, and two, it's going to cost the industry because people won't reuse the product and people will lose confidence in the product. So it's absolutely fundamental about educating people about our products. And they do get more and more sophisticated. The size and it's more complicated with all the building rules and so on and so forth continuously. So that's why you have standards. That's why they have to be continually updated. That's why the ATC has now gone into that technical space and provided really valuable current information. That is updated every year, by the way. I forgot to mention
fantastic.
that. Every year it's updated, such that people in the industry know what they're doing. There is now no excuse for your staff not to know. It's on a platform. So if you don't do that, industry will be smaller and your business will be less enamored because of it, because you either will miss opportunities because the client doesn't have confidence in what they're being told and so walks out and goes to one of the other 35 stores in the street, or they make a blue and it costs you money to rectify it.
Mm. And one of the points that we've touched on a little bit already, when we talk about tiles versus other coverings that can go into internal areas or external areas, I've noticed that the amount of square metres being imported into the country still remains fairly consistent and high. Yeah, you're still seeing that as a good number for the industry in terms of what's happening out in the marketplace, or are people still looking and selecting other floor materials to use?
Look, generally, I think the industry's and the product's in a good place. It's a great product. It's got longevity. It's got lots of different applications. It's got lots of different options. And the industry, particularly Italians, have been very good at innovation, massively good at innovation. And that's kept us very, very current. In fact, I remember in the 80s where slate was a very common product. You don't buy slate now because, the Italians made tiles that look like slate. I mean, it's not in fashion there. You can't buy it, and put them out of business, right? Then they did the same with stone. Then they did the same with marble. Then they did the same with timber. Now, the timber, they had 2 or 3 iterations, but they've eventually got it right. People can't tell the difference between a tile timber floor and not anymore. So I think the product in that sense is in a good spot. Yes, I don't think there's anything to be worried about in that space. I think the biggest threat to industry is industry itself and the people that work in it. And by that, I mean margins. If people go out and cut the margins such that it becomes not profitable because they're not recognising all the things that need to go into the margin in order to cover those things, they're just selling a tile and that's all they're worried about. That's the biggest threat to industry, ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that speaks volumes about a lot of the conversations that we have in the tiling contractor community as well, very much so in the same space where people are looking for the cheapest quote to install some tiles, which is probably on the back end of the cheapest price that they've paid for tiles, but it doesn't necessarily translate into quality and or longevity of the job that's being done. And I think that really loops all the way back around to what you were saying earlier on in this episode, which was we're talking about, the tiles and tiling guide and the tiling training, tiles and tiling training that's on offer now. It's important to implement that at the foundation phase of getting into the industry so you understand what the important things are about what the products do and how they work and the fundamentals of them. And it's not as easy as paying someone a few dollars per square meter to lay them. It's a pretty complex and complicated. It can be a complex and complicated installation that can, that not done correctly, can cost thousands of dollars in rectification.
Well, to that extent, again, the council has a series of brochures and notices on its website available for its members that cover all those things, including giving stuff to your customer to ensure the best they can that what they're about to do and what's about to happen, right, is done to the best of their abilities. The process they need to go in order to double check if the quotes are going to be right, the process and the sorts of things that they need to be aware of, right, as they go through the process. They're all there on a plate, again, for companies to use, branded ATC, so they're not company branded. Now, a lot of these things initiated from companies like ours, right? But when we used to give it out with our name on it, people didn't always trust it. Oh, that's what you say, right? But it's ATC, so it's independent. So there's a lot of other stuff there that's available to the companies to assist their customers to ensure that they don't fall in the holes and fall into the traps. And we don't want them to and they don't want them to either, because if they have a bad experience, next time they go looking for a different product.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, just talking a little bit really briefly about, and sorry, I'm just changing gears here for a second again, just talking a little bit about products, and I'm interested to hear your take on retail shopping environment versus online and how that's changed that tile experience over the past probably 10 or so years, I would say, if not a little bit more. How are you seeing it in WA? Is the online part of tile shopping having a significant impact, or is it just there as an option?
In WA, it's virtually non-existent. I mean, you can buy tiles online, but tiles aren't the sort of product that you buy online. They're a tangible touch, see, feel type product, right? And so that's what people want to see. You can't go into a store and try a pair of jeans on and then go home and then buy them online, because if you want to buy those tiles, you've got to buy them from those stores. So, yeah, in WA, it's negligible. And I'm not sure what the other states are like, but, apart from the commodity lines, like, a 600 by 300 rectified white or standard adhesive or something, once you go outside of that, there's a different requirement in respect to what the customer wants. It's not a disposable. It's something they're going to put in their house. It's going to be there permanently, and it's bloody hard to change. It's not like it's paint. You can change it, or a curtain, or even carpets to that extent. So on the online part, certainly my experience is it doesn't have much effect at all.
Yeah, I've found that over the years that online has a very niche part of the industry, but it's certainly, as you've poetically said again, it's a long way off dominating versus, the retail aspect of going in, touching and feeling and seeing the colours and texture and weight and all of the things that make tiles.
Look, I think people use, whether it be websites or Instagrams or social media, to work out where they want to go and have a look.
Mm.
But I don't think many people then go, that's where I'm going to make the purchase that way.
Yeah. Well, Peter, one last question before we wrap up today. Looking ahead, what's next for Crosby Tiles and the Australian Tile Council? Any big initiatives happening in Western Australia or visions about what's coming up?
Well, I'm going to be a bit boring. We're going to be staying in our lane, as I've done for the last 35 years. So, look, we are progressive. It's not like we're not a progressive company. We're very progressive in that space, and that's what's kept us there. So we'll continue to be progressive in that space, but we're staying in that space. As for the Tile Council, I guess, there's an enormous amount of work gone in the last 4 years, an enormous amount of resource being created. So I guess our focus probably in the next 12, 18 months or so is to get out there and just try and spread the word and just make people aware for their own good, really. We're now not selling something.
Yep. There's
something there that people just need to be aware of. And when they go in there and they freaking trust it, and you don't have to spend a lot to trust it, you won't come back, because you'll be saying, if you do nothing else but use the online course, it'll be worth whatever you paid 5 times over every year.
Absolutely. And I think just to echo that sentiment, for as little as $150 a year annually, which is less than 50 cents a day, it's worth getting involved if you're a contractor or an architect or designer or whatever you might be. But certainly, it's the website screams industry support and screams technical information, and has all the right pieces there that you need, particularly if you're making a living from being in the tiling industry. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's how it's been designed now. And as I say, it's there for people to take advantage of. It's not costly. It's fundamental. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to. There's plenty of people now that do the work, and so you don't have to be worried about getting involved. Just join. Yeah,
it's a nice, simple message, mate. I like these stay in your lane simple messages. They're great. They're fantastic. It's not complicated. Peter, before we close off today, just very quickly, obviously there's a lot of people in the community that listen to the program now, and we've grown over the last 2.5, 3 years. What I would like to ask is if people want to connect in with you directly and or the ATC, because sometimes they want to do that, what's the best method for them to reach out to both organisations?
Well, Crosby Tiles, again, probably best through our website, through the information contact tag there. And in respect to the ATC, everything goes through the executive officer. But if people wanted to ask me particular stuff, he'll just pass it on to me, and then I'll just pick it up from there. But again, everything's been channeled to the one person who's been paid. So that's the real benefit of being a volunteer, because you don't have to do that much. But if stuff specifically comes in for a particular state or a particular wood, and they'll fund it back to us, and we'll just deal with it. But there's not that much that happens in that space.
Yep. No, fantastic, mate. And we will make sure that all of those details are in the show notes when the episode goes live to air, so people can get nice, easy access to those areas. Once again, Peter, thank you so much for sharing your time today and expanding on who the ATC is and your history in the industry. It's well done, by the way, and congratulations on that. It's excellent to see people still doing what they're doing and doing what they love decades on. So until next time, mate, stay connected, and thanks again for being a part of the program.
Yeah, you're welcome, and I hope people appreciate them and get some value out of what we've seen.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.